romantic road begins here in Würzburg and leads us through magical towns to the Alps. More than 1,000 years of history are opened up to the visitor on this journey through the most beautiful areas of Franken and Bavaria. Let's begin our excursion in the romantic atmosphere of Würzburg, the Franken metropole. The Marienberg fortress, towering above Würzburg, has served as a residence to the prince bishop since the 12th century. The old bridge over the Rhine is not much younger. 12 statues of saints adorn this massive edifice. Würzburg is a very old town. In 704, it was first mentioned in records. Karl the Great came here for the consecration of the cathedral. Kaiser Friedrich Barbarossa celebrated his marriage to Beatrice of Burgundy here in the 12th century. The bells of more than 30 churches and monasteries rang for the occasion. Music fills the streets and open spaces of the center of the city even today. Würzburg has 123,000 inhabitants and countless numbers of visitors every year. Würzburg was an affluent town in the Middle Ages. Its citizens were able to build splendid houses. The Romanesque St. Kilian Cathedral is proof of the affluence of the town. Here there are many works of the wood sculptor Tilman Riemenschneider. His superb works can be found all along the romantic road. He was also once mayor of Würzburg. The River Main flows through the town and is an ancient trade route via the Rhine to the North Sea. The Marienberg fortress now houses the Main-Fränkische Museum. The palace gardens of the residents are kept in traditional landscape gardening style. The residence, the Palace of the Prince Bishops, was built in the 18th century to the designs of the famous architect Balthasar Neumann. It is valued as a masterpiece of southern German Baroque. Today it houses the largest German university collection of classical discoveries. Würzburg was at its peak in the Middle Ages. All of the most important leaders of the time stayed here. According to the legend, the most well-known lyrical poet of his time was buried here, the Minnesänger Walter von der Vogelweide. If we drive down the romantic road a little further, we reach Tauberbischofsheim. Bonifatius founded the town in the year 735 AD. Later, after the 13th century, the town belonged to the electorate of Mainz, and the prince bishops of the Rhine built their palace here. The foundations of a Gothic Lady Chapel lay under the parish church of St. Martin. The citizens of Tauberbischofsheim are very proud of the recently restored Gothic Revival Town Hall. Tauberbischofsheim is now the county town of the Main-Tauber County. The typical Mainfrank half-timbered houses are well worth seeing. The past has stood still here on the romantic road. We continue up the road to Bad Mergentheim. Medicinal waters of St. Peter's Spring gave the town its spa status. In the local park, the town's own spa orchestra plays music for the guests, for entertainment is part of the treatment. Bad Mergentheim is an old but modern town of the Romantic Road. The Romantic Road follows the path of the small rivers Taube and Wörnitz, as many old trading routes do. Many a well-situated aristocrat discovered this lovely sun-drenched landscape, and so the lords of Hohenlohe made this place to be their residence. At first they built a moated castle, which later became a palace in Renaissance style. The lords furnished the castle with great taste. The banqueting room is especially worth seeing. Weikersheim Castle is built in the style of medieval castles. Drawbridges, gates and the keep are reminiscent of earlier architecture. Countless bridges span the river Taube. After all, the valley was an old trading route. Wine was also cultivated in this sun-filled area in former times. Here the vines still grow, producing delicious Franken wine. The road to Rothenburg leads through the lovely Taube Valley. The town is unique in Germany. It is almost a perfect replica of medieval culture. Just in front of the walls, St. Peter and Paul Church in Detwang, built in 998 AD. The church hosts a unique work of art, Tilman Riemenschneider's Holy Cross altar. The famous wood sculptor created it in 1510. Rothenburg was a place worth visiting even 400 years ago. Whoever could not go on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem should at least go to Rothenburg, a poet of the time said. The tributary of the river, Main, runs through the Taube Valley. The first sight of the walls and battlements of Rothenburg is breathtaking. Time seems to have stood still since the Middle Ages. Heralding the civil architecture is the Tappler Castle in the Taube Valley. It was the summer residence of the most famous mayor of Rothenburg. The close surroundings of Rothenburg have remained almost unchanged. There are no skyscrapers or apartment blocks to see here. The double bridge is an impressive construction dating from the 14th century. Originally it was a viaduct built in Roman style. The castle gate with the highest tower of the town. During sieges, hot pitch used to be poured onto the attackers from here. At night, the gates remained closed. The castle gardens are behind the gate. An impressive castle belonging to the House of Hohenstaufen used to stand here in the 12th century. In the 14th century, it was destroyed by an earthquake. Today the gardens are maintained as a well-kept park. Rothenburg on the Taube is an important tourist center in Frankish Bavaria. Through tourism, the town can regain some of its medieval wealth. The venerable walls withstood many a war, even the 30 Years' War. However, in the Second World War, a part of the walls was destroyed by bombing. An American general saved the town from further bombing through his own personal protest. Rothenburg was rebuilt after the war with international aid. The market square, with its marvelous Renaissance architecture, is valued as one of the finest places in Europe. Rothenburg was granted the rights to hold markets in the 12th century and uses these rights even today. One of the specialities is freshly pressed apple juice. It is still tradition in this former imperial free town for local farmers to put their products up for sale. During the 30 Years' War, all of the most nameworthy generals lived here. Gustav Adolf of Sweden stayed the night in the town hall, and his counterpart General Tilly did the same. The clock of the town hall recalls this era. It represents the legend of the Meistertrunk, with which a past mayor of Rothenburg saved his town from destruction by Tilly's troops. The most dominating place of worship in Rothenburg is St. James Church, begun in the 14th century. The notorious peasant leader Florian Geyer read the demands of the peasants from the gallery of the West Chancel. The priceless Holy Blood altar was commissioned by the town councillors and carved by Tilman Riemenschneider between 1499 and 1505. St. James Church was built in the style of a Romanesque basilica. The Röder Gate was formerly a toll house. Here not only the personal papers of the travellers were examined, but also tolls for excise, highway and bridges were collected. The tower room houses an exhibition about the war years. There is a wonderful view from the gate tower overlooking the town. In the Franken area, red roof tiles are traditional, and they give a warm glow to the medieval town. Rothenburg has a real speciality, the snowball. The basic recipe for the dough is eggs, butter, sugar, flour and cream, with a dash of plum schnapps to taste. The small round cakes are deep fried in special iron molds. Real Schneeballen are then drenched with confectioner's sugar and really look like snowballs. The Würzburg Gate reminds us of the darker side of the Middle Ages. It still bears the name Gallows Gate. Rothenburg had its own municipal jurisdiction, and therefore there really was a gallows here. On the terrain of the Klingen Bastion, St. Wolfgang's or the Shepherd's Church was built. It was built as part of the fortifications. Under the church there were vaulted chambers from which the enemy could be fired upon, and they were built at a crossbow distance. Here we see the executioner's house and the tower. In a 15th century house, a unique collection can be found, the Dolls Museum. The collection exhibits objects from the past 200 years and about 600 dolls from around the world. There are also various antique toys to see: puppet theatres, model railways, tin toys and merry-go-rounds. The museum guides say that this children's world is an image of the adult world. Perhaps this is why the miniatures allow us to study the habits of our forefathers. Even when the name of the oldest house in town doesn't exactly seem attractive, Rothenburg's catering industry offers specialities such as the Blauerzipfel, a type of German sausage, as well as international dishes. The peculiar architecture of the Baumeister house attracts attention. The pedimental windows of the upper floors are sculptured figures representing the 7 virtues and the 7 vices. Today there is a coffee house here. The Siebes Tower was built in 1385. Just nearby, we find a unique attraction in Europe, the Criminal Museum. Already outside the museum, one can get the feel of medieval justice. Here you can put yourself in the stocks. The history of German law, from the Middle Ages through to the 19th century, is laid out in the inner rooms. The exhibits cover 4 floors and vary from instruments of torture to weapons for execution. Untouched by justice or injustice, the Marcus Tower has overcome the passage of time. It was built in the 12th century. The Gerlach Forge is considered to be one of the finest half-timbered houses in Rothenburg. A blacksmith actually worked here until 25 years ago. Still inside the town walls we find a building which one would usually find in a lonely country riverside, a mill. The grinding mill was driven by horsepower so that grain could be milled even during sieges. Today the Rossmühle is a youth hostel. Even in summer, visitors can get prepared for Christmas. Specialty shops offer all kinds of things for use only 6 months later. Christmas tree decorations, candles, nativity scenes, angels' hair, and many other things which not only make the eyes of young children glow. Christmas is an all-year-round business here. Rothenburg's role as an international trading center came to an end in 1803 when it became part of Bavaria, and so its freedom was taken away and it remained untouched to the present day, a real jewel. This is the town on a cultural level. Heinz Köhler's Puppet Theatre plays in an old barn near the castle gate. Many of the plays are like cabaret acts. Köhler caricatures scenes from everyday life and makes fun of many extreme ideas.
Durch die verschiedensten Techniken in aller Welt, gibt es noch allerlei Unklarheiten, die hier auf unserer Bühne allesamt durcheinander geworfen werden. Kurz, hier wird mehr geschwindelt als in Ihrer Steuererklärung.
Spitzweg's poor poet, for example, is given not such a miserable life.
Aber der Mensch ist noch immer und immer wieder das Interessanteste auf der Welt. Ich müsste mal eine Abhandlung über den Menschen schreiben.
Or he mocks gypsy songs. Each performance produces 90 minutes of fun. A trip to Rothenburg is worthwhile at any time of the year. Architecture is not bound to time. However, this Frankish town puts on a truly spectacular play at special times of the year, such as Easter, Whitsun, and on some weekends in summer and fall, the Meistertrunk. Troopers in historical costumes, officers and cavalry transform the town into an army camp of the 30 Years' War time. The highlight of the festivities is the performance of the popular play written by Adam Herber, a local craftsman and poet in the 19th century. A local legend is portrayed by which the commanding officer of the Catholic League, Imperial General Tilly, experienced bitter resistance from the people during his conquest of the town. The penalty was the execution of 4 town councillors.
Wir bringen unser Herz und unseren Arm, wie unser Blut und unser ganzes Leben. Verfüge über uns. Wir sind bereit. Wir sind bereit.
Before the execution, the general is offered wine in a goblet measuring 13 schoppen, equal to 3.5 liters. At the sight of this huge vessel, General Tilly declared that if any man was able to empty the mug in one gulp, he would let mercy go before justice.
Den streichen wir uns rot an im Kalender.
Der Humpen hier ist bis zum Rand gefüllt. Ein überfließend Maß an edlem Wein. Wenn einer von euch Mut und Kraft besitzt, zu leeren den Pokal in einem Zug, dann will ich Gnade üben. Schuld vergessen. Lieber Gott, das ist nicht menschenmöglich.
Past Mayor Nusch took on this gigantic task and was able to finish off the drink. General Tilly kept his promise, and the old mayor slept off his stupor for 3 days.
Bei Gott, trinkt ihn aus. Hier, Feldherr, hier. Wie ist dein Name? Ich heiße hier Nusch. Doch euer Wort. Ich werde es redlich halten. Gottlob, wir sind gerettet. Ganz bei Gott gerettet ist die Stadt. Und wir sind frei. Wir wollen zum Schluss mit dem Retter. Danke.
Almost every citizen of Rothenburg takes part in this play, either in front of or behind the scenes. The Shepherd's Dance, which the people of Rothenburg perform annually at Easter, Whitsun and on several weekends, dates back to the sagas of the Middle Ages. In 1517, the Shepherds Guild was granted the right to celebrate a Shepherd's Day with music and dance. Apparently, the plague was thus banished from the town. Colorful pairs of dancers in historical costumes transformed the market square in Rothenburg into a medieval dance floor. Thousands of tourists set the scene for the performance every year. Evening time in Rothenburg, and the night watchman goes on his rounds. He explains readily to tourists his duties. In former times, he not only had to proclaim the hour, but also had to guard over the town as well, and to heed the fire, and to watch out for enemies.
And in the beginning of our tour, I want to give you some ideas about the night watchman. So I'm a night watchman, a modern one. And we had real night watchmen in the Middle Ages here, and we had four men, and they had a lot of work. They worked all night, not only a few hours, and not for the fun of the people, but it was a hard work. In wintertime it was longer than in summertime, because the night took longer. So from 8 till 5 in winter, from 10 up to 4 in summertime.
In the evening atmosphere of medieval Rothenburg, time seems to stand still. Famous painters such as Ludwig Richter and Karl Spitzweg discovered Rothenburg generations ago. Thanks to a wise policy of gentle tourism, Rothenburg has remained the dreamy town that it has always been. Way up above the Franken Heights, a Baroque castle stands out. The Schillingsfürst, the residence of the Princes of Hohenlohe Schillingsfürst. Prince Chlodwig was the Chancellor of the German Reich between 1894 and 1900. His study may now be visited. The market square of Feuchtwangen has been named the Banqueting Hall of Franken. The old city is dominated by the Collegiate Church. Another jewel in the chain of romantic towns is Dinkelsbühl. The farmers of Spelt, a special type of wheat, founded a settlement here in the 12th century. One enters the old town through a wonderful town gate, the Wörnitz Gate. The town is characterized by medieval town houses, the Schranne, the Gustav Adolf House and the German House. Dinkelsbühl was granted civil rights in 1270. The town on the river Wörnitz stood in the shadow of Rothenburg for a long time. However, tourists from around the world have discovered the charm of Dinkelsbühl for many years now. The town walls are completely preserved. Dinkelsbühl owes this fact to King Ludwig I of Bavaria, who ordered the suspension of the demolition work. What the Meistertrunk is for Rothenburg is the Kinderzeche for Dinkelsbühl. There is also a historical background to this too. In 1632, the town was besieged by the Swedes. The people were Protestant, but the council was Catholic. After several weeks of siege, the council allowed the town gates to be opened. However, the daughter of the gatekeeper, known as Kinderlore, blocked the Swedes' entrance with a crowd of children.
Gehorsamst und ehrwürdigst.
Freundwilligst überreichen wir nach Beschluss des Einigen Rates dieser Reichsstadt den siegreichen Schweden
Obristen die Schlüssel zu den Toren, Türmen und dem Zeughaus.
Mehr Kinder scheint's, als Männer durch die Stadt, die sich vermessen wollte, mir zu trotzen.
Um eures einzigen Kindes willen, Herr, dass Gott nach seinem unerforschten Willen in seine heilige Engelschar genommen, das für uns bitten wird vor seinem Throne, den Engeln gleich, die diese hier beschützen. Erhört das Stammeln unserer Kinder. Gnade, Gnade, Gnade.
Steh auf, du tapferes Mädchen. Deine Hand.
The Swedish Colonel von Speerreuth was thus moved to show mercy and prevented the town from being burnt down and plundered.
Mein Herz gemahnt an mein Eigenkind. Reicht ihn mir her.
So war auch er, den Gott in seinen unerforschten Rat nahm.
So zart, so sanft. Irgendeine Sprache spricht ein Kindesauge. Wer kann sich ihm verschließen? Du führst in Wahrheit eine Schar, mein Kind, bei deren Anblick sich mein Herz erweicht. Um euretwillen sei die Stadt verschont vor Plünderung und allem Elend.
The Swedish camp outside the town recalls the time of the siege. The townspeople show by drinking and gambling what the militia camp of the 30 Years' War looked like. Song and dance are part of the program. A parade is part of the historical Kinderzesche. After the performance of the play, it goes through the streets of the old town, which are decorated with flowers, garlands and flags.
Senkt die Fliege!
Wir werden uns jetzt einige von ihrer Kampfstellung zeigen. Und zwar, das war die arme Kerl, der wieder angefangen wurde, der nun von des 30-jährigen Krieges, die sogenannten Pikeniere, diese schwere Reiterei gemacht. Ich habe vorhin erzählt, dass der Ratsherrn an, angeführt von der Königin dieses Festes, der Kinderlore, denen gläubigen Mädchen, dass durch einen Geistesblitz erkennt, dass ein Baumschreiber mit dem König.
The story of the Kinderzesche lives on in the Knabenbataillon, or the Boys' Battalion. The uniforms are similar to those of the soldiers of the time. The highlight of this part of the parade is the speech of the little colonel. The internationally known boys band of Dinkelsbühl plays music from the times of the 30 Years' War. They perform in Rococo-style uniforms and in the colors of the Augsburg Fugger Regiment. Dinkelsbühl was also a free imperial town until 1803. Similarly to Rothenburg, it has nearly 11,000 inhabitants, little industry and mostly gentle tourism. The third medieval town on the Romantic Road is Nördlingen. Also here, the churches, town houses and defensive buildings are well preserved. Nördlingen was an affluent town until the 30 Years' War. The town hall, one of the oldest in Germany, was built in the 13th century. Under the outside staircase there is a small door leading to the jail. The fortifications of the town are overlooked by the tower of St. George's Church, known as Daniel. The office of the tower keeper has been occupied for the last 500 years. His traditional call has been handed down till today. For non-Franks, so Geselle so, the historical call so friends so. Nördlingen's old town, with its churches and museums, is worth seeing. But the surrounding area is unique. The wreath or colossus in which the pretty houses lie was formed 15 million years ago through the impact of a meteorite. On the border between Franken and Swabia, Harburg Castle rises up above the river Wörnitz. The red-pointed roofs are characteristic. Harburg was built in the 12th century as a defensive castle by the Stauffer princely family. They wanted to protect the important imperial route from Nördlingen to Donauwörth. Harburg Castle can be visited and the castle tavern offers Swabian specialities and Franken wine. The river Wörnitz flows into the Danube at Donauwörth. This fact has given the town its name. Around 500 BC, a small island in the river delta was settled. Donauwörth is still a lively center for tourism, and it has a remarkable medieval town hall and many Baroque town houses. This excellent geographical precision gave rise to the town of Donauwörth from 1293. Trading flourished at an early stage in Donauwörth, since it was on the main imperial road between Nuremberg and Augsburg. The most important town on the Romantic Road is Augsburg, not because of the 250,000 inhabitants, but because of its history. The shrewdest and richest merchants of the Middle Ages originated in Augsburg, the Welser and Fugger families. The Fuggerei was the first welfare housing of the world. Poor people can still find a flat here today for 1 mark 72 pfennigs per annum, as long as they have a good reputation, are Catholic, and pray daily for their donor, Jakob Fugger, named the Richman, who established this housing in 1516. Augsburg was always an affluent city. Sacred and civil buildings prove this. It is the city in which Hans Holbein the Elder lived, and in which Bertolt Brecht was born. In 1985, Augsburg celebrated its 2000-year anniversary. Latest discoveries have proven that the town is probably much older. The citizens take this with composure. Musical tradition is cultivated in Augsburg. After all, there are more families here with the name of Mozart than in Salzburg, the birthplace of Mozart himself, where the name no longer exists. Further along the romantic road, we find Landsberg on the Lech. Heinrich der Löwe had a castle built here to protect the salt route from Berchtesgaden. The customs duties brought wealth to the town, and the magnificent houses recall this wealth. Landsberg is a county town, and 19,000 inhabitants profit from local industries. The Baroque buildings and the town walls with its round towers show the rich past. The church called Maria Geburt belonged to the once powerful seminary of Rottenbuch. The landscape between the rivers Isar and Lech is called, rather rudely, the Pfaffenwinkel or clerical corner. It's not far from Rottenbuch to an interesting bridge. The Eschelsbacher Bridge is 185 meters in length, and at 75 meters, the highest concrete bridge in Germany. From here, you can enjoy a wonderful view down into the Ammer Gorge. Near Steingarten, the Wieskirche is valued as the finest Rococo building in Bavaria. It was created by Dominicus Zimmermann, and nowadays dream weddings take place here. The romantic road is coming to a close and nears the Alps. Nearby are Füssen and the Forgen Lake. The slender early Baroque church at the foot of the Tegel mountain is called St. Coloman. Its namesake is the Irish pilgrim Coloman, who according to legend stayed here on his way to the Holy Land. The major attraction of the region is of course Neuschwanstein Castle. The Bavarian King Ludwig II realized his dream of a fairy tale castle here on a rocky peak overlooking a deep ravine. Schwangau lies in this lovely landscape and is called the village of the king's castles. Hohenschwangau is the second castle. Crown Prince Maximilian of Bavaria had the castle built in English Tudor style. The swan is the symbol of the region. Schwangau is surrounded by lakes. Forgen Lake is the largest of all and is a reservoir in which one can go swimming. Füssen waits for us at the end of the romantic road. The connection from the River Main to the Alps ends here under the Hohen Castle, or begins here, depending on how you see it. Füssen is one of the oldest settlements along the northern edge of the Alps. The center of the old town has remained untouched for hundreds of years. The prince-bishops of Augsburg maintained their summer residence here. Long before the advent of tourism, they treasured the glorious landscape surrounding the town. Füssen has also been the center of violin making, even before Cremona or Mittenwald. Music is still important today. The Spa Band plays for Füssen's visitors. In the Lech Gorge, the Lech Falls. Here, according to the legend, St. Magnus jumped into the dangerous waters on his flight from his pagans and left his footprint behind him. Füssen is an original Bavarian town, and from an original Bavarian evening in the spa house of Füssen, we will close our journey along the romantic road.
Ich fahr her über Brücken, schau noch einmal mein schwarzauget Dirndl, wie laut ist mir drum. Hollerit ja, die Rillei holt ja, aber heut ist ja wiederum so. Hollerit ja, die Rillei holt ja, aber heut ist ja wiederum so.
Ist mein Tagwerk vollbracht, sing ich gern, wann ich alleine bin, statt alle Jodel für mich. Sing